Welcome back to Wells Family Journey. Thanks for tuning back in, and we're back inside my kitchen once again. I was just trying to figure out what to make a video of today, and if you're curious, stay tuned and I'll let you know. Like I was saying earlier, we are back in my kitchen. What are we doing today? I decided we're going to do a cooking video, my first cooking video. So, as you can see behind me, my cabinet full of spices. I don't know if anyone else's cabinet looks like this. Ours is a mess. It's filled with so many different seasonings we bought for various dishes we're cooking, baking things, and everything else that you can think of, you know? And I love it when you start to cook and you go to find your ingredient and you can't find it. But you know that you have like 2 or 3 of them. So yeah, I was trying to find some Italian seasoning and I couldn't find it. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna make lasagna. We love lasagna in the Wells household. Lasagna is my favorite food. Any dish, hands down, lasagna is my favorite food to eat. So I was going to wait for my younger daughter to give me a hand in the kitchen preparing everything. She asked me last night, so when are we going to start this? And I told her, I said, before we get hungry. Well, it is 12:30 in the afternoon and she's still asleep. So what, gotta love kids. All right, so let me show you some of the ingredients that I got together and let's get to it. Here we go. Here's some of the ingredients we got together. You're gonna need ground beef, which I have. I'm not really going to be measuring things out because I've done this thousands, I do mean thousands of times before. So I'll try and talk you through everything. We're gonna start out with lasagna noodles and ground beef. Ground beef is thawing out in the sink. So you're going to need pizza sauce or tomato sauce, a little bit of tomato paste to thicken your stuff up, your sauce up, seasoned salt or regular salt, black pepper, granulated garlic. I like granulated garlic. Or you can use regular garlic, but I love garlic in my Italian food, so we use a lot. So instead of chopping up like a whole entire bulb of garlic, we're gonna use granulated garlic. Parsley flakes, Italian dressing, oregano, cottage cheese. We're gonna throw in some ricotta cheese for this one, give it a little bit added flavoring. A couple of eggs, various onions. We're gonna be using yellow sweet onions, and I'm thinking about chopping up some of these green onions and throwing it in there. Let's see, and we have our cheese. I think we have a pizza blend cheese, 5-pound bag. So yes, this recipe is kind of expensive to make, but it tastes so much better than frozen lasagnas you can buy at Walmart and grocery stores and other places like that. These are the ingredients that we're going to be using today. And here we go. So, first step you always want to do is to wash your hands, remove any jewelry that you might have on your hands. Me personally, I always like to remove any kind of rings. I only have 1 or 2 rings on. And take my watch off because I'm a cook that loves to use his hands. You know, a lot of people use plastic gloves, disposable plastic gloves while cooking. Me personally, I don't like using plastic gloves because it's very dangerous for me. With sharp knives, hand slip, slice your finger. Yeah, it's terrible. So I like to cook with no gloves on. So I washed my hands and I'm going to give myself a squirt hand sanitizer. And I'm gonna let the air dry for a couple minutes. Washed our hands, and we also got a pot. We washed the pot. We're going to be grounding our ground beef for our lasagna and spaghetti sauce. But we got our ground beef here. This is probably about a 3-pound log of ground beef. I like to buy my meats in bulk. I like to put my ground beef in a pot, add a little bit of water. But what I'm doing, I'm breaking down the ground beef with the water. And yes, I'm using my hands to do this because, like I said, I use my hands a lot in cooking. I'm constantly washing my hands throughout, mushing the ground beef in this pot with the water. The reason why I'm doing this is because we're not going to fry the ground beef at first. We're going to put a little bit of water in here and boil it, which breaks down the ground beef, so it gives your ground beef a finer texture than big clumps of ground beef in your spaghetti sauce and or your lasagna sauce or any other thing that you're trying to do with ground beef. This is what it looks like. A little bit of water, put your ground beef in there, use your hands to pull up the ground beef, and it becomes a little fine. Then what we do, we take it to the stove top and we cook it. Now that we have the ground beef put onto the stove and that's cooking, we're going to let that cook, give it about 10-15 minutes until it is nicely cooked, or it's, I'll say a grayish golden brown. We're going to get everything else ready. So here I have 1 onion. I like to use the biggest onion I can find because I love onions, and I feel that onions makes all the food that you're making taste so much better. Now, if you have a family that doesn't like onions, someone's allergic to stuff like in my family, but we try to limit the things that we cook so that she can enjoy everything that we have cooked in the house. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop 1 onion. You're going to get yourself a good sharp knife. The sharpest knife you can find in the kitchen. Hopefully a chef's knife, because that's the best thing to work with. And if you can't find a sharp knife, sharpen a knife. You should always have a sharp knife when you're doing kitchen. It saves you so much stress, and actually it's better. Less chance of cutting your fingers. I'm going to chop and or dice these onions. Dice this onion. Give it a hearty chop. I'm not going to dice it. I'm just going to chop it. Put it in my pan. And we're going to use these onions for later. So that's 1/2 of an onion. Here's your second half of the onion. Get yourself a nice cutting board. And if you got a glass cutting board or a wooden cutting board and it slips around, put a wet paper towel or a wet dishcloth underneath it so it doesn't slide around on you. This one's starting to slide on me, but this is the only chopping that I'm going to be doing. And we're going to be using a little bit of green onions. So me personally, I'm going to chop off the bottom half of this one. I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that for later. And I did wash these green onions before. I like to fold them in half. Give a nice little chop. There we go. And it's my other onion. I think I'm going to do another 2. Let's do one more sprig of onions. A little kitchen tip is, I don't know if some of y'all use all your onion here. Use all your onion. If not, which I highly suggest you don't, is for these ends that I cut off and I said I wasn't going to use in my dish, you can or you can't. Me personally, I don't, because this is what I do. I save these. Get yourself a little cup of water, put your onion butts in there, make sure that it doesn't cover the top highest part of the onion that you cut. Put it in your windowsill. Your onion will grow back, and it will keep on growing. What I like to do, I just snip off what I need, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And for the onions that you don't use out of the bundle that you got from your grocery store, almost same thing. Get yourself a cup of water. Put onions in the water. Use a little bit less water than that. You know. Then stick that in the windowsill too. And these will stay good. Don't put them back in your refrigerator. These will stay good and fresh for weeks as well. Ground beef still cooking on the stovetop. So we have our onions here. Mixed it up real fine. What we're going to do is we're going to start our cheese mixture, cheese and egg mixture, which is going to be for our lasagna. Okay? So I'm going to get my cottage cheese and open that up. I'm going to use this whole container because we're going to be making at least 2 pans of lasagna at least. I like to overcook. I'd rather have more than I need than not enough of what I need. I'm going to crack our eggs and use those. 1 egg, 4, and 5. Remember, when you're cooking, always wash your hands. That one, so let's not use that. Throw my cottage cheese up in this mixture. And I'm going to use half this container here. Like I said, I buy my groceries in bulk. You're not going to use the whole canister unless you're making enough for like 100 people. You might use it. Got cottage cheese, our cottage cheese. Now we're going to add our seasoning. Like I said earlier, I love garlic, so I'm going to add my garlic. Some of y'all wanted to know the measurement. It's pretty much to taste. Because with cooking, you can always add, but it's hard to take away in cooking. I've done this thousands of times, so I pretty much know how much to add. But if this is your first time making lasagna, I would say I added a good 6 tablespoons, 6 to 8 tablespoons of granulated garlic and about 3 to 2 tablespoons of black pepper. Parsley flakes don't add flavors, just for look. But I'm not going to use that much parsley because I have my green peppers green onions that I sliced up and threw in there as well. And we're going to add some Italian seasoning, just a little bit, because we're going to use this later in the sauce. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon and a half into the egg mixture. Give it just another boost of flavor with some dry oregano.
All right, so within that little pause, what I did was I checked to see if the ground beef was done cooking. It was, so I took it off stovetop, drained it in the sink. This is how it looks. There we go. This is how it looks. It's very finely ground. So what I did, I just poured in a strainer in the sink, ran some hot water so that the hot water let the water and the grease flow down your drain without it getting clogged up. And that's what it looks like. So within my cooking, I did notice that this was not enough meat that I wanted for our meat lasagna for the ground beef. And also this recipe can also use ground turkey. I like ground turkey too. It makes it so much better and it's less fattening for you. So if you're in an area that you can't find ground beef, ground turkey, you use ground chicken too. Ground that up, blend it up, fry it up. You can use that as well. So that's what's in here. So we're going to add that, put it right back into the pot that we were originally cooking in, and it's going to go back onto the stove. We have the ground beef back into our pot here. Got the fire going, so we're giving a little bit more heat, but you really don't need to do that because we're going to be adding our tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce, whichever one you're using. Me personally, I just like to buy this big can of tomato sauce, then add my own seasoning. It's cheaper that way. So yes, I am using this whole huge 6-pound, 10-ounce can of tomato sauce. I know a lot of y'all are saying that's way too much for my family. But like I said, I'm making more than one lasagna. So with all this, I could probably get 2 lasagnas, and I might have a little left over to make some spaghetti later on. Stick it in a container, stick it in the freezer, and have it for spaghetti. So all you gotta do is cook your noodles because your sauce is already made. All your sauce out overnight, warm it up, and you're good to go. We have our seasoning added to our mixture, and I'm also thawing out some more ground beef because I just didn't feel like it was meaty enough for my taste of what I wanted. I'm gonna use our tomato paste, add it to our tomato sauce. Now, this is to your own preference. You don't have to add tomato sauce, but me personally, I want to err on the side of caution. So that's why I use eggs in my spaghetti mixture, my spaghetti cold mixture. and tomato paste to my sauce, because I hate runny spaghetti sauce. I like when I put my sauce on my noodles, whether it be spaghetti noodles or any other noodle, that it sticks to the noodle. It just doesn't run. I hate that. And if it's too thick, just add a little bit more water and cooking and you're gonna be good to go. So we're going to add our seasoning to this mixture. There's gonna be some more garlic, because like I said, I love garlic. I really, really love garlic. So I say the more garlic, the better. Some more black pepper, some more Italian seasoning, and a little bit of black pepper, and I'm gonna add seasoned salt to this mixture. And I'll be right back. Let me go grab all those seasonings. So if you're still sticking with me, like I said, I don't use measurements because I've done this way too many times in my life. But start out, lightly add some salt to that, and we're gonna taste throughout the cooking process of my sauce. Got some Italian seasoning. Now, if you don't have Italian seasoning, you can always use any other seasoning. Oregano, thyme, rosemary, oregano. It's like I pretty much have all that growing in my garden outside except for marjoram. Yep. Basil's in that. So me personally, like I said, I love my food with flavoring. So, I just go get the cheap little $1 canisters of seasoning, Dollar Tree, Dollar Store, Dollar General, whatever you have, Walmart's. And I like to use at least half in all my cooking because I like flavor. A little bit of black pepper. Like I said, I know my measurements, so I can eyeball my stuff. But for you, that's just learning or very new experience in the kitchen. Please use measuring spoons, please, because you can easily mess up your cooking, very easily. We're gonna let that simmer. I got a nice thickness on it right now. So once I add the rest of the ground beef and that gets done cooking, it's probably gonna be just a little too thick. So I'm going to add a little bit, maybe half a cup of water, which is what, 8 ounces? Yeah, about 8 ounces of water. And go from there. Cooking, if you're not very experienced in the kitchen, you can always slowly add things to your dishes until it's what you and your family likes. Something else that I like to do for my spaghetti sauce, my lasagna sauce, I like to add just a pinch of hot sauce. Not Tabasco, I don't like Tabasco, but actual hot sauce, like Frank's hot sauce, Crystal's, whatever hot sauce you have at your house, just add to it. So stick with me and we're gonna go on to the next step. Turn the heat off because you don't want your sauce to burn. So turn your heat off, okay? So let's move on to the next step.